Well, welcome everybody again. My name is Kelly Mann, and I am the Director of Programs with A Time to Heal. And before we officially get started, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank our sponsor today. Nebraska Cancer Specialists is our sponsor for our monthly Create Your Best Life events. They sponsor all of our Create Your Best Life events, including today's session. So if you want to learn more about them, you can visit their website at nebraskacancer.com. Joining us today, we have Becky, Emalee, and Taylor. Welcome back. They are all three young adult survivors of rare and aggressive cancers, warrior women who are learning to thrive and are passionate about supporting others. They created Love Blackbird, a blog for cancer patients and also for those who love someone going through it. They talk about cancer, life, love, hardship, and triumphs. So welcome back, ladies. Thanks for joining us again. Did you want me to start it on a certain slide? I didn't ask that earlier.
Maybe, but before we get started, since it is a smaller group, we were thinking that it might be a good chance for us to meet the folks on the phone. So if that's okay, if anyone feels comfortable just coming off mute and introducing yourself, maybe giving, a quick elevator speech about what you're looking for, why you're here, how we can help, that could be really helpful. And do we have any victims?
Jenna, it looks like you raised your hand, but you're on mute. I don't know if you were wanting to come off mute.
Sorry. Yep. Yeah. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Yeah, so I just recently got diagnosed May of this year. And I have stage 4 metastatic breast cancer that has gone to my bones. So my bones are very fragile and I'm hurting a lot all the time. So even with pain meds. Lately I've just been very depressed, even with antidepressants and all that other stuff that they give you, so it's been very hard for me. Of course, now I'm cheering up. But it's been very difficult. And not a lot of people know what you're going through, even though they want to be by your side, through everything. So, it's just, sorry.
Oh, don't be
it's
sorry.
been very hard. So I feel like coming on here and like learning from you guys and what you guys have been through would be beneficial for me, and kind of seeing like the outlook and all that through it. So.
Okay, let's talk about how your eyelashes look, whether they're yours or fake.
I never watched them, so that's good.
Because you are rocking something. And you're here and you're out of bed and you're basically conquering the world today.
Yeah.
So welcome.
Thank you.
And you came to the best spot. We like to laugh together. We like to cry together. We like to do all of the things. So you are exactly where you should be. And we're glad that you're here.
Good.
So
Thank you.
So this is, I have who's a little bit older. Sorry, I was trying to Google at the same time so I don't mess. Clea, from the lady that, does anybody my age group do the
you're in our age group.
Yeah, we are the same. but the organizers, do you guys know the organizers? All right, someone else introduce themselves and I'll come back to me.
I think Jamie was maybe gonna say something.
Yeah, I can introduce myself. I'm Jamie, and I'm in Council Bluffs, and I was diagnosed with breast cancer in July. I had a single mastectomy in August, and I started chemo at the end of September. And I'm also 7.5 months pregnant, so that there's a little hitch in things. So we're working through that. Baby's due in December, so I have 1 more cycle of chemo before I deliver baby, and then I'll have 5 more cycles after I have baby. But everything, it's hard, but it's going as expected.
That's awesome.
And I got my face on today. I'm pretty excited about.
It looks great.
Thanks.
Okay, so I came for you guys to listen. If you want a podcast, there's a new podcast called out Best Friend Energy. It's from Joanna and Clea. They do the home edit, which is like basically they come in and organize your house in color coded order, rainbow colored coded order. And I don't know, they're just best friends and they're cute. They came out with the podcast. Anyways, Clea has breast cancer, and she's been a super big advocate of her process. And I don't know all my breast cancer terminology, but it's not a super great one in regards to subgroups. But their podcast, they've only had 2 episodes. I really thought of you because their podcast is their motto of the day every day is a low bar lifestyle. So like they have people call in and then they'll read the voicemail of like, why are you excited about your low bar lifestyle? And they'll be like, well, I got out of bed today and I made my bed. And then I actually like did some sit-ups. I didn't work out, but I did some sit-ups. And then, you know, like whatever. And they're so like upbeat that they're like, oh my gosh, that's like 3 goals you did. You made your bed, you got out of it, and like, and you took a shower, whatever. But I know when I was kind of like in the midst of treatment, because I'm so type A personality, is that's literally what I had to do every day because I was so depressed and I wanted just to at points be done. Whatever the ends that meant, I just wanted to be done with treatment. And I wish there was somebody to say, have a low bar lifestyle for a while, like set your little goal, walk to the mailbox, have an apple and a whole piece of cake, and do what you need to do to get through the day. Some days are just days that you're gonna sit on the couch, and they also have a Netflix show called The Home Edit, which is really cute. You know, binge that first 2 seasons.
Yeah.
But I feel the depression part. I kind of went in like ups and downs. Sometimes I'm like, I can kick cancer's ass. I'm doing fine. And then there are a month at a time that I wouldn't even want to get out of bed.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing all the right things. I would think today, 75 degrees, go sit on your porch. If you listen to a 30-minute podcast, call that a win. So is there anybody else that needed to introduce themselves, or that's it?
Looks like there might be 1 or 2 others, if people want to.
But
Yeah.
maybe they're happy.
Yeah,
So it's
maybe
like,
don't want to,
it was
yeah.
like halfway through, Kelly, where we kind of ended up.
Yeah. Yeah, let me you tell me.
And Jenna, while they're doing that,
I
I
can
don't know.
do this one.
I don't know
Go
if you are open to medication. I did go on an anxiety medicine when I was diagnosed. And I am a huge believer in Xanax. So highly recommend that if that's something you're interested in. And it was really helpful. And the same thing as Becky, like I have highs and I have lows, and I did pull off of it a couple of years after treatment. And I've honestly been thinking about going back on because I just think it helps take the edge off a little bit. You know, I'm sure you have anxiety about cancer, but I bet you have anxiety about a million other things, right? Because this impacts every avenue of your life. So I'm a big advocate of all the meds, all the drugs, and the Xanax for sure. So if that's something that you're interested in. I also found myself doing yoga. I thought it was really the meditation bit. I am like Becky, probably all 3 of us, we go a million miles an hour, and I never let my brain sit for just a minute, or even my body. And so I did yoga, and I ended up doing a yoga retreat in Costa Rica while I was in chemo. And perhaps it was irresponsible, I don't know, but it was life-changing. Just having a minute to be outside, to be relaxing, listening to myself, my journey, where I've been, where I want to go. It was therapy for me, and really good for my mental health space. So that might be something else to consider as well.
Yeah.
If you haven't already.
I definitely am on some, I think I was on Prozac before, and then they put me on a hormone blocker because it's estrogen, and I'm estrogen positive for my cancer. And so they put me on a different antidepressant because it like interfered with it or whatever. So the first like week or two. I mean, it was a very, very difficult, especially being on a new medication and then switching my antidepressant. It was like, whoa. So yeah, I think it's helping a little bit, but like I think it was Kelly, or I don't know, Becky, said that, you have your highs and lows. Like there's days where I just don't want to do anything. And then, I mean, even before I got diagnosed, I was working out a lot, trying to focus on myself and everything. But then, hearing that it went to my bones, I'm always achy too. So I can't really, unfortunately, do like yoga and like go to the gym and lift weights and stuff, because I can't lift more than 10 pounds, and bending, I can't bend still, they say. I mean, sometimes I do, but just things like that, that completely changed my life. I can't really do those things anymore. So just focusing on my nutrition for the most part. So
well, and I think for me, one of the most important things that I kind of got to at the end of treatment was finally, like, I think it's important for all of us to normalize, like, if you sit in bed and cry for a whole day, that is okay. And if you do it again the next day, that is okay. I mean, I remember so many days where because I was so sick and in so much pain, I couldn't get out of bed. I mean, I remember there were times that I'd be like crawling to the toilet because I was so weak. And I, sometimes like my dad would come up and he would just sit and I'd just be crying, just cry, because it's just, I mean, there is real, true grief around what you're going through. Outside of the fear of what the cancer is, there's grief about your life change and how it changes your relationships and how it changes how you see yourself. And I think normalizing that experience and normalizing those really deep lows can just help a little bit, because it'll relieve some of the like, well, I should be getting up and doing something, or I should be this, I should be that. No, there are no shoulds in this world. It's all like, if all you did today was survive the day, that is 100%. And I just, I'm so proud of you for being honest with what you're going through and what your experience is. I'm so proud of you for being here and getting on this call. And, we are here to support you in any way we can, because it's just, the lows are low and they're deep and they are isolating, because there are very few people that understand what you're going through. But we do. And we'll find some sort of humor in it, and we'll hug you 100 times, so my heart is just pounding for you, because I remember so clearly what it was like. It just, and it's okay. It's okay. It is what it is. And you'll get through each day as it comes.
thank you.
And I was so big on, I was so lonely, but I couldn't participate in anything. And so I just got my good, really close friends that didn't mind seeing me in my pajamas every single day. And I said, bring your computer and crawl in bed with me, and let's put on a rom-com Netflix. I'll probably fall asleep, but like the closeness of having somebody there, like having one of my people there, actually like let me get some quality sleep, let me feel like I saw another human being. It's just about finding your whatever gets you through that hour in that day. But that does bring me to physical exercise. And I don't know, so I'm a physical therapist, as we said before, and I'm a big, huge believer in aquatic exercise for anyone, but especially for us that have had a lot of chemo or have a lot of restrictions. Because the water, if your water's up like waist deep, it takes 50% of your body weight off. So if you can talk to your doctor, and I know Methodist hospital system, I teach a group of exercise ladies there, but they also have an aquatic program that's out at Lakeside, which is a warm water pool. And it is like $10 a month. I mean, or $0. You don't, it's kind of, and then, or you can get if you need more of a one-on-one environment with a physical, and those are all physical therapists, but if you need like a one-on-one environment, there are several pools, warm water pools in town that you can get your doctor to write a script for, and just do easy exercises like arm movements, keeping back straight, all that. So you feel like you did something, you feel like, you know, you're still using your heart and getting things moving and all of that stuff. I love that. I wouldn't say if you have cold intolerance or anything, don't go jump and at the Y, but you know, I have been known in my weakest points to go get with the old ladies in the aquatic classes at the Y.
No
Just 'cause it feels
shame.
so good. But you can start with a nice warm water first. And I'm sure, I feel very confident that that would feel good. Otherwise, easy weight bearing exercises, which means walking, is the best thing for your body, right? So it seems like, you know, when you have mets to the bones or your body, you have calcium deficiencies and like your osteopenic or osteoporosis, exercise can be scary, but walking is the best thing you can do because it keeps it in it keeps your back straight. And actually the light impact of bone against the cement and bone against bone actually slowly over time strengthens your bone. So it's the best thing you can do. And when I felt like shit, I made a goal to my mailbox. That would be like twice a day. I talk about when it gets cold, I get really depressed. Like I feel like I'm self-diagnosed seasonal affective disorder, even when I'm not on treatment. You know, make a goal to walk around your kitchen counter 5 times or whatever you can make 5 times a day. Your exercise can be broken up in tiny little increments at the beginning, right? So everybody hears 30 minutes a day and you're like, oh my God, I will like not be able to do 30 minutes a day, even if you like gave me a trip to Europe. But every 5-minute increments at the beginning and just try to spread those throughout the day. Sitting chair exercises, like just kicking your leg out, marching and sitting, doing heel raises. If you're having a really crappy day, at least gets that blood flowing back from your feet up into your heart, keeps everything circulating. And then on the other side of things, you know, it took me a long time to believe in restful relaxation because I was the kind of person that, you know, I was running 5Ks, 10Ks, you know, while I was pregnant and before I got diagnosed. And I'm like, I can't really breathe, but certainly it's not cancer. And so when I got off treatment, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to go back to running. And then it's okay if I only have one lung. And then I tried Orange Theory Fitness for a while. And I did that for 2 hours. And then I slept for 8, like during the middle of the day, probably not great, but I just go on to, you know, there's so many programs out there. Melissa Woodworth is a great one. She has a program, that is just like meditation and light, gentle, you know, yoga and Pilates, like the basic of the basic. And sometimes just taking that 15 minutes out of your day to do that. You know, obviously you should listen to your doctor's restrictions and recommendations, but 99% of the time, not moving at all because you're so scared of making things worse is going to push you more backwards. If you go to Melissa Woodworth's app or whatever, she's annoyingly beautiful and says she eats stuff, but I don't believe it. So that's the only thing that drives me crazy about her. But yeah, I love the idea if you can find the peace to do 5 minutes of meditation. Our A Time to Heal founder is a big, huge believer in that. Steph Korleski, I have not found my peace yet and being able to do that. But if I work really hard, I can do 10 minutes of really low level yoga. And that at least is some movement and quiets my brain.
And Jamie, I know you put something in the chat too. So I don't know if you wanted to talk about that. Like you
Yeah, I'll just mention real quick. First, completely upfront, I don't know anything about this organization. I just found it like an hour ago. And I signed up to do the yoga tomorrow. It's specifically for breast cancer patients, but I'm sure they're not going to ask. I think anybody can join. I have been wanting to get into more movement as well. And it's been so hard with chemo. I just don't feel like getting off the couch. And I still have some pain from surgery and stuff. So I haven't done much either. And so I found this, and in the description, it says, even if you just sit and breathe, you're still doing yoga. So I thought, okay, I think I can do that much. And then maybe,
Awesome suggestion.
yeah, and then maybe I'll be motivated, to move my arms a little more or something. So I threw it out there, but like I said, I've never done it. I can't really vouch for it, but I just thought I'd show you a resource that I found as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
One thing I wanted to add on really quick, just in terms of meditation, because I found it, I mean, of course, because I'm like Miss Hippie and I'll try anything, but I loved meditation. I still do a ton of meditation. There are a lot of free apps, which you guys probably have already heard about. The one I really came to like during treatment is called Insight Timer. And there was one, and I'll find the link to it and give it to Kelly so we can email it out. But there was one meditation by this guy named Dr. Robert Puff, which I just thought was very funny. For whatever reason, it was like Puff the Magic Dragon or something. It's fine. I may be aging myself, but it's focused for someone going through cancer. So it's this amazing guided imagery about like, imagine yourself at your most strong, your most vital, your most like, and it's 10 minutes. So you can, it's not something that's long and drawn out. It was just a really great visual. And I used it really consistently through treatment. So, I'm not saying that will be the one for everyone, but once you kind of explore a little bit, sometimes you find one that kind of clicks with you. And for whatever reason, I thought that one was really nice since it was so specific to what my experience was. So, exploring can find you some good things.
I love that. And Becky's going to murder me because we have these slides and we should talk about the slides. But Jamie, I think
move on.
Jamie, I think that you were on our call last time. Yeah.
Mhm.
And did you and Becky have a chance to talk about the pregnancy cancer?
We haven't, but even just the 2 minutes we took during the call made a big difference to me, because I remember her saying, baby gets what baby needs first, and then my body gets what I need. And that has stuck with me the whole time. And that's given me so much peace.
Are you delivering early or anything, or induced or anything?
Yeah, I'll have a early C-section, but I had that scheduled even before the cancer because I've had a couple uterine fibroids removed. So just for safety reasons for me, they were going to do it early anyway.
Okay.
So yeah, the cancer hasn't affected that so far.
Gotcha. That's awesome. That's awesome. And I could get my 8-year-old on here and be like, so normal, so average.
At this point, I'm more nervous about taking care of an infant while going through chemo. I have a ton of help. I mean, I have so many family members and all of them are teachers. So they have December off. They'll be here. But, I want to hold my baby. I want to take care of her, but I know it'll be very difficult.
Well, you can
So
sit.
I had to go through a whole separate grief process for that. So I'm not going to sugarcoat it and say, you're not gonna, I was pissed.
Yeah.
It was my third baby, but, so I wanted that 3 months of at home snuggling on the couch and, just living this blissful, I don't know, I was, my kids were still going to go to daycare and I was still going to have this quiet time with him and it was just going to be perfect and romantic. And, we were living with my mom and he was in the NICU for 2 weeks, which sounds like your kiddo will be great. And then I think because he's in the NICU, I ended up having like 4 days at home before I had to go back to inpatient chemo. So I did not, and it just wiped, like my chemo wiped me out. I'd have like maybe 2.5 days before I went back in for the next round where I was upright. But my mom raised my kid for the first year. I did not get, and my husband, but I did not get up one night. I was unable to breastfeed my other 2 kids either. My boobs just didn't work, but I can see how that would be difficult for some women. I don't know what they've told you about continuing chemo, and I just went straight to formula. But I had to grieve that. Like I didn't have that magical experience with him. My mom like in the middle of chemo would bring him to me, and like even holding him in bed, I didn't trust myself to like not fall asleep. And so I missed that, but then I grieved it, and now I'm like, but I also have this special bond and this special closeness with Ethan that I don't have with any of my other kids, because we like survived so much together. And when I was done with chemo, we kind of like pulled our bootstraps on and got our lives back together. And I was moving as fast as him. And you take your wonderful family members, and you have your first outing to someplace not crazy gender, or not crazy Jeremy. And you do all those things together, just a little delayed. But this is what I always go back to, is that kid just needs to be loved on. So like your daughter just needs to be loved on in the beginning by anybody who's willing to cuddle with them. So if it's not you for a couple of months, it's actually really okay. Your bonding will come later when it can still come. So if she's loved and cared for and passed around to 30 family members instead of with you, that is okay. It will still come. It just took me a long time to figure that out.
Thank you for sharing that. I think I just needed to hear that it's okay, because I mean, there's so much to it, mom guilt's part of it, but it's more than that. It's, I want this, but I don't know how much I can have,
Yeah. And it's like, yeah, you just have to give yourself a lot of grace. And it's really hard as a mom to give yourself grace. But my gosh, who doesn't love to cuddle on babies? You're going to have people like lined up at the door to,
Yeah, I do.
to rotate.
They're like, give me the baby. I'm like, what about my toddler? You want him?
Right? Exactly. And like I said about my kids too, now my 11-year-old's been going through a whole bunch of anxiety issues and stuff. So I like I said, don't have all the answers, but pick a person that is your toddler's go-to person, that like, because oh my gosh, all these changes that he's having in his life, right? His mom's not running around after him and taking him to the zoo, and now she's busy with what energy you have with your daughter. Like designate whatever like goofball 20-year-old you have in your life that's a guy that just loves to like run around after toddlers and like bang trucks and kickballs and all that stuff for 3 hours, and he doesn't care. There's probably somebody in that life, and just say, hey, I need you. This is what I need in my life right now. This is how you can help me on my cancer journey. Once a week, can you entertain my toddler for an hour? And so he feels like he gets one-on-one time. Like mine was just all about like guilt and how to keep everybody like not traumatized from, and I think that helped. But who knows?
That's really helpful. I actually have a 20-year-old brother. He's 18 years younger than me, but he's exactly what you described. So he's my go-to.
And he's probably really wants to help, but has no idea what to do with his pregnant sister who has breast cancer, and is probably just like overwhelmed. And you can literally be like, this is what you can do for me.
Yeah.
And this will make me sleep better at night, or not feel guilty for a 3-hour afternoon nap.
Okay. I like that.
And then you have time with him, when you can, to like cuddle up and watch whatever Netflix show that he's into at the moment, and still get that cuddle time, but it's just with one eye open. And I was big on, like, I talked about this about when I spoke at a Time to Heal a while ago. I had so many people come to me and be like, well, like they all thought I was dying. I thought I was dying. It was okay. I would love to take your kids for the day, take them to the park or whatever, but we know you want to spend time with them and snuggle with them. And I'm like, no, please take my kids. Like, I love to snuggle on them, but they don't want to snuggle for more than 5 minutes. Yeah. Please go take them, run them around, give them like a normalized day, take them with friends, take them to whatever bad Burger King, and then bring them home all nice and worn out. And I can rub their back while they take a nap on the couch. Like, I just had to like tell people that after a while, like, this is the best thing you can do, is take my kids out of the house. And I feel like crap. I don't really want to have them see me feel like crap. But if they come home and it's time for their nap and mom's napping too, like that's semi-normal to them.
Mhm.
So anyway,
Okay, thank you. Those are all really good ideas. I like that.
good.
Oh, boy.
This could take up the
So-
rest of our hour.
Nutrition during treatment. So the second I was diagnosed, I went off the deepest of ends that you can go off with regard to nutrition and no sugar, because obviously that's feeding my cancer and da 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 da. Right. So this is a picture of me because I would go in for 3 days for chemo inpatient. This was my first day of my first chemo, and in that thing, tumbler shaker, whatever they're called, is a blended up super salad mixture. Like it tasted like really bad guacamole, and I'm just like drinking it down because I found some online guy that was like, here's how I cured my cancer without chemo and da 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 da. Right. I literally would not eat sugar, would not eat carbs. I mean, it was, and I'm no offense to anyone who's doing that right now, because I know where you are. Like, if that's where you are and you're like, this is the one thing I can control. And so I'm going to eat all the good things and I'm going to heal myself from the inside out and da 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 da. I get that. But I'm also here to say that Becky's very sage advice that I did not listen to until basically I was like almost done
90
with
pounds.
treatment. Yeah. I mean, literally was like, eat a cheeseburger. Like for the longest time, all that sounded good to me was a plain bagel with plain cream cheese. And I remember the first time I actually like let a friend or family bring one to me so I could eat it, because I was withering. And I ate it and I was crying the entire time I was eating it. I was like, this tastes good. I want to eat it. Like for the first time, I want to eat something, but I was so scared. I was so scared that I was somehow making this terrible cancer even worse, and all of those things, you know. And Becky would remind me very gently, as much as she could, that like, I need to eat, I can eat, like cancer is cancer is cancer. We get it. You know, it sucks and it shouldn't happen, but sometimes it does. It's not the sugar that's doing it to you. Like the sugar isn't going to kill you. So I think, you know, I did. What I came away from treatment was I focus now, and toward the end of my treatment, when I started being like, okay, I'm 98 pounds, I have to like not, because a lot of cancer patients, like my oncologist, because I asked when I went into my oncologist, I was like, why will cancer kill me? How does it kill me? I don't understand how that happens. You know, like what does it do? Which is morbid, but I wanted to know. And he shared with me that a majority of cancer patients die of starvation. That's like the ultimate thing that happens because you can't eat, you can't digest, and that's what kind of shuts down a lot of your body. And so when I got to the point where I was very small, it was like, okay, well, I'm doing all this crazy chemo. Like I can't let the food thing be the thing that takes me out, right? So what I eventually kind of came around to, and what I think is kind of a good approach, is that focus on what you can add in. Don't focus on what you have to cut out, right? Like if you want a piece of cake, if you want a cookie, if that's what sounds good, you eat that. But also, like I got really into just like powdered green drinks, and there's flavored ones now that taste very good, or you can put them in a smoothie. So I'd focus on trying to just like get a green drink in as well. Like that's something I could add in that would give me additional nutrients, instead of being so strict about what I couldn't eat and what the rules were and all of that. So, you know, I think if anybody has any questions around like what they're doing now, or what good supplements are. I mean, I also started getting on a lot of different supplements. We did a lot of research in terms of like what will help like bone health, or what will help my energy, or what will help, you know, just a million different things. So that's, I think, a more productive way to spend your time and energy, is like, what can I get in today that will be helpful? Instead of letting that fear override, because it really, the fear took me over, and that need to control something. So I guess,
Taylor, I have a question.
yeah.
What was the craziest thing you did? Becky and I are laughing because she was crazy.
Crazy, guys.
Like, so we had so there was one after I couldn't get down the blended up salads anymore. And so I should shout out to my husband because I started juicing. And so we have pictures of him, like he had like full on gloves on, like to keep like germs away. It was like sanitary. And I had a specific recipe, like this was the cancer curing juice. Here's the vegetables that need to go into it. And he would juice. And we like called around to Omaha. Is there someone that can do this for us? There was no one. So every other day at night, like with everything else going on, he would juice for like 2 hours. So, because the nutrients go away after so long. I mean, it was rigid and specific. And I still do some juicing. Like I like it. It works for my body. It feels good, but it's not because I'm scared if I don't do it, that something bad will happen. It's just like, oh, if I have time to do this today. But I think so I had a very specific shake recipe. That was like the only thing that I would eat for a period of time during my 6 drug chemo. And it was made with some of the like grossest ingredients I've ever tasted in my life. And I'm someone who like loves all the weird stuff. I love vegetables. I love things that people think taste bad. And this thing, the worst part about it was made with, I don't remember, it's like coconut milk, but like not the coconut milk that you buy in the store. We had to like order it from overseas and it came, it's like very chunky and you had to like chunk it in because that was my good fat. And it was just like it looked like coagulated. You'd put it in, mix it up. And I would just force this down thinking that I was curing my cancer somehow. So it didn't, I'm pretty sure the crazy chemo that I did is what got rid of the cancer, but it was just, I had to process through it. If I can save anyone else a little bit of time or effort on, like going through that whole shenanigan, please, it just, because when I got to the point where I was eating more and enjoying my life more, I felt better. I felt happier. It's like everything I was going through still sucked, but if I wanted to go have a big plate of pasta, like God forbid, I could, and it was fine. And so, yeah, it's just, for me, it was so easy to fall
where I had like a lot of chemo ulcers, like in my throat.
Yeah.
And I wasn't talking, like it was painful to swallow. That was the worst part of my chemo. One of the worst things that almost made me want to quit. And I'm like down here, like, Mom, I'm not going to drink that Ensure unless you dump ice cream in it, like make it a malt. And so the only thing I would eat would be like chocolate Ensure malt with a tiny bit of Ensure and like that much ice cream, or mashed potatoes, because I could like swallow them. I would not eat for like months. I didn't eat anything else, and that worked out okay too. So I would go Taylor, like that's a time to heal kind of stance on the whole sugar thing as well. Is think about what you can add into your diet versus what you need to take away. Have the cookie, but then like have a banana as well. And when you look at all the research, unless you're like only consuming like sugar, like granulated sugar by the handfuls, for really take sugar out of your stress. Just choose to eat healthier when you can.
Yeah. When I was first diagnosed, I had people coming to me like, oh, you should go vegan. Like it'll be so much better for you. So I did try and go vegan for a little bit. It lasted maybe like 3 weeks. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm starving myself. This is stupid. But it did remind me like that I need to incorporate probably more vegetables. So then I started trying to do like Meatless Monday or like stuff like that to incorporate more vegetables. So I think
I love that balance for you.
Trying to find something where I could, because I was eating a lot of candy and and things that I was like, okay, maybe I need to change a little bit of what I'm eating. But yeah, I think it's important to find things that you think taste good too. Otherwise, food is not enjoyable.
There's the joy in life.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Like food is one of the best parts of life. So cutting that out while you're going through all this other crap is like, what? Of course we're sad.
Well, especially during COVID too, like I felt like I had to because I have lung cancer, so I feel like I could not go out in the world at all. So I was not doing much of anything. So food was my joy,
Yeah.
which sounds stupid. But then I was like trying to cut that out. I'm like, oh, I'm miserable. Like there's no joy in life right now. Like, okay, I need to bring back the
Food is my
vegan.
joy. That sounds completely normal to me. Cancer or not.
Agree.
Yeah. All right, Kelly, what's next? Oh, okay. You know, this is kind of what I was talking to Jamie about. Caregivers don't know what to do. Like literally, if you haven't had, I had no cancer in my family. I mean, no one knew what to do. There were a couple of people from like church or, an extended friend that had a random uncle that had cancer that knew. But it was kind of like, we were all shocked. So basically it took me a long time. I said no to everything. Like my mom and Eric and I have it covered. Like we're good. Because I felt like I needed to be that strong person. Like I can manage a 6 to 3-year-old and a baby and chemo and a week stays in the hospital and it's all good. Like, but it was not good. It was like the worst thing I could have done for myself, the stress of myself and for my husband and my mom. I mean, they got burnt out. They'll never admit it, but eventually it's impossible not to. So I would say yes to every meal especially if a family like a toddler or whatever, I would say yes to every meal train that somebody offers. The best thing we did was one of our friends put a cooler on the porch. People would give a time that they were dropping it off, and said, if you feel like answering the door to say hi, I'll be there at 5, but otherwise I'll just leave it on the front porch. Steph Korleski even dropped stuff off for me, and I learned so much more, because she's like a wonderful cook and knows how to do cancer right, I guess. Throwaway pans were amazing if somebody puts that, and kid friendly but non-pasta food is amazing, because I never thought I'd get sick of spaghetti. Like we were so grateful, right? Like I couldn't get anything besides a bowl of cereal on the table for my kids. And but sometimes after months and months, your kids even get tired of spaghetti. So soups were great, like chicken noodle soup, and because that was something I could eat and the kids loved. People did like breakfast burritos, and that you could put in the freezer and the kids themselves could just pop in. But like cinnamon rolls, something you can reheat later. People who did like brisket, for my poor husband who hadn't eaten anything but spaghetti. And then like, again, just telling people, and then we went down to like 3 days a week, because you can eat leftovers and sometimes you just want to order pizza. And rides to and from the hospital, if you're some people want to just sit in chemo and like do their own things and out. I was somebody that like needed a person, preferably my husband, there for every single step of the way. And finally I learned that like there are other people that could be that person for me. Apparently my husband had to, go to work occasionally. So make a plan for that. But the biggest thing is, and then I always planned, I got new pajamas every time I went in for a big surgery. I have lots of, that was my treat to myself. I planned like a trip after every like chemo, every time I relapsed, I planned something. So even if it can't be a trip for you, like some sort of get together with your friends in town or something to look forward to when you're like just staring at the wall and watching time tick by because you can't get out of bed. Like, trust me, your girlfriends would love to plan like a night, even a night in, like at somebody's house to watch Netflix and something that keeps you mentally strong and have something to look forward to, I think is the best thing that people can do. I had neighbors, I mean, again, everybody just wants to be told what to do because they have no idea. Like neighbors that texted me, running to the grocery store, what do you need? Because like sometimes milk and eggs are too hard to get. So just write down what would make your life easier and tell them and say yes. Stop saying no, say yes. And they'll feel like they're doing something to, ease this time in your life, and you'll actually get the help you need instead of, I'm like, don't give me flowers. Like flowers don't help me stop puking. Flowers don't entertain my children. We had one friend in Iowa that went down the crap aisle at Walmart, like the dollar toys and everything, and sent the kids like a little bag of dollar toys. They were young enough for me to save on like an afternoon that I couldn't get off the couch, and for me to give that to them. And I thought that was like the cutest, greatest idea. So yeah, basically just say what you need and don't feel bad about it is my hope for you for that. Any of you guys?
I was just going to interrupt to say Jamie put something in the chat box on the topic of nutrition. So sorry that I'm going backwards a little bit, but looks like it's a cookbook, what to eat during cancer treatment. And she said that it's divided into chemo side effects, what to eat when experiencing, looks like you have it there, when experiencing nausea, constipation, and so forth.
Yeah, and like I said, I haven't tried it myself yet because I just got it yesterday, but it looks really great because it even has like recipes if you have a hard time swallowing or a sore mouth or throat. And I really like that it has like the nutrition facts here, because I was just diagnosed with gestational diabetes, so I have to be careful with my carbs. It's actually been easier than I thought, though. That was just another thing to add to it, but it hasn't been that bad. But so like I said, it's from the American Cancer Society. So I think it's probably a pretty good book if people are looking for a little extra help. Actually, honestly, my plan is just to give it to my husband and say, here, do what you want with it.
Or give it to your one friend in your friend group that actually enjoys cooking. Like
Yeah.
I have a friend that she's like I hate cooking. And she's like, well, what's the difference between making like doubling a recipe? I'm like, it's a ton of difference. She's like, no, it isn't. That's what I'm doing on Sundays, even and either way. I'm like, okay, if you think you can handle it, like there's always somebody out there that's like, that brings them joy.
Yeah, I agree. There's another book that I really liked. So kind of two thoughts. There's a cookbook called The Cancer Fighting Kitchen, which I would just take a picture. Like if I saw a recipe that looked good, I'd take a picture of it and be like, I want you to make this exact recipe, and people are happy to do it. So just jumping onto what Becky was saying. And then also kind of like when you're having, because I had very similar to Becky with those really, really bad sores all the way down through my digestive system. And there's something in there called the miracle broth, which is like a vegetable based one that has a ton of, it's really nutrient dense, but it's just a broth. So you can sip on it. And between that and like bone broths that have a lot of kind of the flip side of nutrients and some protein and stuff, like I'd sip on those a lot. So yeah, but just don't be afraid to tell people like, I think I can eat this, so make it for me.
I threw a link into the chat as well. Saber Health actually has an app with it says precision nutrition to manage cancer and other complex medical conditions. But basically, they'll tell me, send me a text the same time every day. Usually it's around I think it's noon, and they ask how I'm doing and if I need any resources. And then they have dietitians that they'll take those questions to, but they'll give you tips of like having issues with not being able to swallow, try this recipe, or they'll give you like a different idea every day. And it's just nice to know, like if I had something specific I wanted to ask them, like they have a whole team that they can, and their resources usually are pretty good when you ask certain questions. So
That's awesome.
I found like
That's
that
really
app is pretty cool.
Yeah. Thank you. That's awesome.
What's next, Kelly?
I was going to say, yeah. Okay. Work.
Oh, work.
Emily, Taylor?
Yeah, Emalee and I can kind of go back and forth on this. So,
Is anybody working?
yeah.
Rochelle? Okay.
Well,
Yeah,
let
working
me
from
say this
home.
first. I came first and I tried going back to work as a PT, I think 6 times. And then I kept having a tumor pop up, and I had a super wonderful boss. That's really one of my best friends. And he kept letting me come back at whatever hours I wanted, but eventually it just didn't happen anymore. But Taylor and Emalee came after me, so they have similar stories. But again, it's all about you having to process process everything individually, how you need to go through it. And even another cancer survivor can't tell you how to do it, but our stories are very eerily similar, how we but we all had to go through it ourselves. So go ahead, Taylor, Emalee.
Well, there's that element of wanting that normalcy back. I mean, the entire time I was going through treatment, I just didn't want to be going through treatment. I wanted life to be as it was. And so it seems like something you can grasp at. And it's easy to go too far. I mean, I think we all found that, like, trying to go back or trying to work through treatment can be really difficult. That being said, it's a really huge area. So if anybody has any, because I mean, we can get into like the technical, like, what are your rights? What can you ask for? What can you do? You know, Emalee and I are both attorneys. I worked in this space for years before treatment. Or if you just want to talk about like our experience or kind of what our recommendations would be based on like when to go back or whatever. We want to open it up to you guys, so you are kind of getting what you need out of this discussion.
I think the biggest difficulty for me that I found is I went back to work full time initially and thought I was going to be like, I was walking 30 minutes and I thought I was going to be okay that way, but I didn't realize the mental processing part, how exhausting and fatiguing, like keeping up with everybody's conversations and like everything A Time to Heal talks about brain fog. Like I had every single little bit of that. And I was just exhausted trying to follow what people were saying, much less teaching people what they were supposed to do following their injury. And that got me just sleeping, you know, during lunch and sleeping in my car before I went home. And you just really have to take that part where your brain needs a break, even if you feel physically ready. I would never like go back to after you finish chemo full time, like even if you have a sitting job. For me, it was not the physical part of it all. It was just exhausting. And anybody can do anything for like, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. I'm ready to go for like a week or two. And then every time it caught up on me on like week 3 or 4, like, and one day you just can't get out of bed.
Yep.
Like, and so if that happens to you, just make sure you're not the first, and or make sure to know that, you know, it's not abnormal.
Yeah.
I beat myself up every time.
And I know we talked about this a little bit last week toward the end about options for disability, whether it's Social Security or your employment's short or long-term options, things like that. For me, I'm all about normalizing things, right? Like life is hard. Let's not judge one another for what we're doing. I had a really hard time. Like part of me wanted to get right back to work because I couldn't get over the mental hurdle of like, I'm 4 now, and I shouldn't be on Social Security. That's not who this is. You know, like I can get back to work. I'm going to be healthy. And it was really like an embarrassment for me to say, like, I'm on Social Security and that's how we are getting by. That's how I'm paying for my groceries. You know, my husband's still working, but life is expensive. And so I think if that is something that you like, if you feel like you need to take some time off, if treatment is too tough and, you know, the intermittent time that you may be doing is too much, get on Social Security. That's what it's there for. You know, the process can be difficult sometimes if you're not on that compassionate care list, but it's there to, you know, help people through times like this. And I ended up, because I went back to work after treatment was all finished, and I lasted about 6 months total. And this is me working from home completely, right? So it's a very flexible position, and I couldn't even swing that. I mean, I was just making mistake after mistake. I was exhausted. I was really moody because I just couldn't keep up with everything. So like my family was getting not great sides of me. And then I went back on Social Security after that. And I was on it for years. I was on it for, almost a total of like 2.5 or 3 years until I just recently, this is years past treatment. And I've returned to work, and in all honesty, it's really tough. Like I want to be doing it, but it's still really tough. So it's just recognizing the true impact that this has on you and your ability to work. It's there's no shame in it. There's no shame in saying it's too much. I can't live this way. And that's why those things are out there. So
I have a question.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about, I guess, kids, whether they were at school or in daycare, when some of you weren't working, did you still bring your kids to daycare? Like, I can't imagine.
Send them if you can afford it. Send them.
I think that'd be harder than going to work, taking care of the kids at home. So like,
And if you can't send them, find a friend, phone a friend. Do not keep your toddler at home with you with a baby. I wouldn't do that. I didn't do that for babies 2 and 3. I sent my kids to daycare, my first kid to daycare. It keeps some routine and normalcy, right? For your toddler going to daycare. Like that's his day. That's his normal. He doesn't need to know that, mama's chilling with your daughter. No toddler wants to take 3 naps a day, or, even deep down if you ask him, he doesn't even want to watch Coco Melon 3 hours a day.
I don't know.
Go to daycare. And if
Okay, good to hear.
Daycare is not an option, feel no guilt.
Yes.
Okay.
Like he is in a much happier, toddlers, kids are all about routine, right? Like they thrive on routine. They thrive on a schedule. Keep them on a schedule. It's like my big, you would think my husband's military. We are not, but we are kind of militant. Stay on the schedule is all I can say.
And then
that time as a mom too, to be able to be like, you got that time with your first son, like the cuddle time and all that, the naps on the couch with the sunlight pouring in or whatever. You need that time too, just as a postpartum mother, nothing to do with cancer. Send a child.
Well, and then, I am 100% on board with this too. Like send the kid, send them. We did the entire time. But then if I had a day where I was feeling good, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have like a burst of energy this afternoon. You can go pick them up early. You can go get them and go to the park and say, okay, I have an hour's worth of energy right now. I can do that. But it keeps it stable routine. It gives you the space and time you need to take care of yourself without being like, I don't know what I'm going to do with you. So yeah, send them.
And I tried that and I was the opposite. I felt guilty if I had a little energy or whatever. So I'd go get a kid and then and then they wouldn't want to go back to daycare the next day. So I'm like, we're there 8 to 5 every day, no matter what. And if I have an hour, there's a lot of importance in self-care too. So it's okay to go get a pedicure with a baby on a boob. Do whatever you need to do, read a book, when she's sleeping or whatever, take a nap. Whatever you do, don't feel guilty about it. He's thriving. Or take him to the park, whatever kind of mama you are. I'm the
Michelle, I saw you came off of mute. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I had a question for y'all. Okay, so I got treatment up at Mayo in Rochester. So the only time I took was the 2 weeks that I was up at Mayo for radiation. And then I came back and then I was doing pulmonary rehab. But then I made up the time that I was at pulmonary rehab because I had this pressure. I just felt like I needed to, continue working. I run a well-being program at work. So I'm like, it seemed almost, I don't know. It's like, it wasn't even taking care of my well-being the more I look at it now. But the thing that was frustrating for me was, yes, I have short-term and long-term disability at work, but you can't work in order to collect those benefits. So I wanted to work intermittent, where I would work half a week or, but then I would have to go without pay. And I'm single. I don't have family. I have family, but I'm not going to ask my family to help pay bills, and so I feel like, yes, there's things in place, but it almost made me feel like I couldn't work at all. And so it was almost like the opposite of, I don't know if that makes any sense, but I was just like, oh, I don't know what to do on that piece, because I feel like I'm also letting my team down if I take 3 to 6 weeks completely off, just so I can get paid, when really I could work half days, So that's where I struggled. But I ended up burning out pretty hard. I ended up having radiation pneumonitis, which absolutely made me so fatigued, and I ended up having to take a week off. But I mean, I used it more as PTO type of thing. But I guess legally, is there, I don't know, is there things to do where you can work part-time? Or, I mean, I guess you got intermittent. I have intermittent FMLA, so I did work a reduced work schedule for a couple weeks recently, but you don't get paid obviously for that time that you're not on the
Rachel,
clock.
I would say your job will be there. You're like, what, how you're so young, take the minimum short-term disability, take the 3 weeks off, even if you physically think you don't need it. Mentally, I promise you, you do. Mentally, I promise you, you do. Somehow figure out how to push the guilt to the side, that voice in your head that says you need to always be moving and always be contributing. And like you said, you nailed it earlier, I'm not taking care of myself and I'm the wellness coordinator. Sometimes when I go to my therapist, once I say it out loud, I'm like, oh shit, that does probably isn't the healthiest thing. People, if you are working with good people, they honestly don't care if you're taking those 3 weeks and sitting home and reorganizing your closets. You mentally deserve, it sounds like you've not stopped moving since treatment, and which also means you haven't grieved, you haven't taken time to think about all of this. And I wanted to just be done with treatment and then never think about cancer again. And let me tell you, it's not possible. You can put it back in the back of your mind for as long, but if it doesn't come, if you don't take time for it now, it'll come back to you. And we have people in Survivorship 101 that are 20 years out and just starting to deal with all of the mental health stuff. I would urge you to not feel guilty and take the 3 to 6 weeks.
And to offer a different perspective, Rochelle, I completely get it. Wasn't married, was single. I needed health insurance and I needed a paycheck. I mean, that's just the bottom line. And I feel that. I had my dream job in Omaha. Loved it, in-house counsel for a really great organization. There were great people, great mission. And I honestly, looking back, so I was terminated from my job. I got fired during chemo, during treatment. And looking back, I think a big part of that, aside from how messed up that was, I honestly think it's because I kept trying to go back to work. I feel like every time I tried to just work a couple hours a day, but then people saw me that I looked normal, I looked healthy, right? You can throw on some hair extensions, you can throw on some makeup and you're okay. I wasn't okay. And I was making mistakes. I was taking naps in my car, etc. They didn't see that part of it. And I really think that when people saw me coming in and trying to work and they thought I was healthy, it gave a different perception, right? Maybe people thought that I was, I don't know, lazy, or, I was able to work, but was choosing not to. I don't know. At the end of the day, I really wish I would have just taken my time. I wish I would have taken a step back and relied on that policy, the short-term, long-term policies. And honestly, your doctor is going to write you a note for whatever you want. You just have to ask for it, and they're going to say, absolutely, Emalee, let me give you that Xanax prescription. Emalee, let me say that you can't go to work for, X, Y, and Z. They will do whatever you need them to do to heal. And so just from a different perspective, I really do looking back, I think it was a disadvantage for me to not take the time off.
And
Yeah.
honestly, whatever group you're leading and whatever company you work for, people are using their disability for a lot less than than lung cancer, right? A little bit of pain, let's take 4 weeks because, I strained it. So try to talk to yourself and be like, this is okay.
I think the other hard part is there's like a double-edged sword at work is my supervisor, her husband is going through cancer and she's like hardly ever gone to. So I feel like there's like this pressure if she can do it, I can do it. You know, granted, she's a caregiver, so she's not necessarily going through the physical aspects of it, but
Yeah, girl, those are not the same facts. Those are not.
Yeah.
And I bet Taylor could spit off a million reasons why it's not the same. Don't compare yourself.
Yeah,
Don't do that to yourself.
I hear it and I felt it like that. It's such a hard, I don't know, mental thing to kind of jump through the hoops and figure out like, well, wait, but what will people think of me? And will I be able to come back? And what will this look like? And I mean, besides the finances and all of that. And it's just, you know, it will take time and bit by bit, but as much as you can try to honor, what is it that I need? Do I feel like I can actually do this? And do I want to do this? Or do I want to take the time and give myself a little bit of a break and, you know, and do what is right for you? And it's hard to get there because there's a lot of different pressures and a lot of different ways. But, you know, I kind of opposite side of the same coin. I don't know, brain doesn't work. But as to Emalee, like when I was actually in active treatment, I tried to work intermittently for like the first couple of weeks. And then I was just like, I'm out. And it was hard and I was embarrassed and I was like, oh, what are people going to think? And but I just couldn't. And so I took, you know, full time. I wasn't working intermittently at all. I took full time off and I'm thankful I did. Looking back on it, you know, there was a lot of mixed up feelings about it, but it was the right thing for me at the time. And it was probably one of the first scenarios in which I really just said, this is the right thing for me and I'm going to do it, even though I'm worried about a million things. And then just kind of like a reminder for everyone. So when you're working, like if you're working for a company that they are obligated to, you know, offer you FMLA, whether it's intermittent or continuous, once that ends, if that ends and you're still struggling or you still need different, you know, like aids or modified work schedule or things like that, like I had Dragon Speak put on my computer because I had such bad neuropathy that I couldn't type. You're entitled to all those types of accommodations under the ADA because you're disabled once you have gone through this process. So it can feel icky sometimes to ask for things like that because you feel like you're asking for too much or you're putting more on your teammates than what they should be dealing with. But you're going through cancer. Ask for anything that might help because you're entitled to it. That's why those laws exist. And they're there to help people get back to work as they're able, not to force people back into work before they're ready. So just kind of a food for thought.
We did a webinar earlier this year from Cancer and Careers. They're a national organization and they have a ton of resources about those things, having conversations, requesting accommodations. They even have like guidebooks for employers, like that you could provide to your boss and so forth. And so I can put some of those links in our follow-up email as well. We do just have a couple more minutes before we're at time. So I don't know, Becky, Taylor, Emalee, if you guys have any.
We got to end on that last slide.
Which one are we?
The one that you were just, it was next.
You tell me, Becky.
Taylor's talking about how she loved on her husband still.
Oh God.
I think this was really good information for me because we had, after every child, I always feel weird with everybody's having still faces. So I don't know if I'm going to shock people. Y'all are not moving, so I don't know. Every child, I was like, tell him deeply in love with my husband, but I'm like, do not touch me for like 6 months. There are things going down there, right? And Taylor had recently had a baby too, but like, I learned a lot from Taylor because I'm like, I don't know what you're doing, Eric, like to get through if you're drinking, if you're going to have sex with other women. Like I was so in such a hole that I'm like, and he was coping really well. I was like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing it. He's like, oh, I just told my penis to turn off. And when it's ready, I'll turn it back on. But I had a ton of issues with like scars everywhere. Like one of my scars, I have my boob, but one of it goes through my boobs and I was this bald. I mean, I looked like a bald elf. Like there's no part of me bald skinny elf. I don't know what, but there's no part of me that felt sexy at all. Like I did not want to, it took a lot of motivation by Taylor to start feeling sexy again, I guess. But anyways, Taylor, take it away.
Yeah, gosh. All right. Well, any of my family that's on this, you can like put your earmuffs on at the moment. But this just, so there's one story that I have, and talk about injecting laughter into this stuff, right? So I actually had someone that I knew that had gone through cancer that came to me and was like, here's an idea for you. Because we were a young couple. We had just had our second baby. We were like, yay. And then this happened. And especially any type of cancer treatment changes your body. Obviously, you don't feel attractive. You don't feel like you want to be like, hey, let's go get together. And then also, if you're going through a treatment that has anything to do with your like hormonal system at all, that can affect things crazy. I mean, for me, like intercourse was very painful for a long time.
Taylor, I'm gonna interrupt you real quick. Oh,
yeah.
Come here. Oh, never mind. Go ahead.
There were like a million reasons why I didn't want to be intimate, but I didn't want my husband to be like suffering even more through this experience and just be like, and guess what? You're just not going to like see my body for 2 years. Great. So there are a lot of things out there to help in this area, right? Like there are, I mean, I'm sure people have, maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Oh my gosh, I'm like sweating, but there are toys, there are lubricants, there are all sorts of things. And again, like I'm all about, let's release the shame around any of this stuff. Go explore, talk about it with your partner. Like, would this interest you? Would you like to try this? I bought my husband a fake vagina, right? So it has like one hole on one end and one hole on the other. And I'd be so weak that I couldn't be like participating with him in much, but I'd just kind of like be laying by him and like, let him use this so we could like as closely simulate something that felt more like true intimacy than just like, okay, go to the bathroom and take care of yourself. Right. So I'm just being really open right now, and I hope it's not offending anyone, but it's important, or at least it was for me, to try to maintain some sense of connection and normalcy in that part of my life. And it became like, we laugh about it so much now. It's like one of those stories that we come back to and we still have it. It's just like there. And sometimes I'll pop it out and be like, hey, like, look what I found, and it's just like finding laughter in what you can and finding ways to stay connected, whether that's with your partner, or even, with your friends, obviously in a different type of way, probably, but maintaining those connections is so important through treatment. So anyway, I'm really sweaty now. And if anybody has any questions, you can ask me.
Well, we can do questions. Our last slide is, what would you have told yourself at initial treatment? And I would have said, you'll find friends will come out of the woodwork that you didn't even know existed in the part of your life that they did. And that stage 4 is not a death sentence. And you can get through this, and you can maybe, and live a long, beautiful life, and maybe treat it more as a chronic disease than you're picking out your burial plot in 6 months. What would you say, Emalee?
Honestly, don't know. I guess, the biggest thing is some of my favorite quotes are, you've survived 100% of your hard days. And so I think sometimes it's hard to remember that whatever you're going through is probably really hard and really tough, but guess what? You've done worse stuff probably, and you survived and you're just fine. And I think you have to have the mentality. I just fake it. I in my brain, I'm like, I'm going to live a long, healthy life. So this one chapter, it's literally just a chapter in your big novel of your life. And maybe that's work. And maybe it's saying, Emalee, I can't work for a year. I can't work for 6 months. That's okay, because that's such a small amount of time if I think about my long life that I'm going to live. And for me, that's been a really helpful way to think even now. I think Becky, Taylor, and I, there's a high likelihood that we will all get cancer again. And that's this mentality for me, at least right now, is really working. So Taylor, how about you?
Yeah. So there was a quote that a good friend of mine sent to me weekly the entire time through treatment. And I now have it tattooed on my side. And it says, beautiful girl, you were made to do hard things. So believe in yourself. And I'm going to cry. I remember questioning so much, like, am I making the right choices? am I making the right choices through any of this? And coming back to that belief that like, believe in yourself, you're going to make the right choices for you, whatever you need to do, whether it's with work, whether it's with treatment, whether it's with family, whether it's with what you're eating. It's whatever you decide is going to be the right thing. So try to, get out of that fear. For me, it was a lot of fear, a lot of shame, a lot of, just difficult stuff. And looking back, I think if I would have, looking back, having faith in every choice that I made and knowing that this is right for me right now. And I'm going to do the next best thing and I'm going to get through this. That would be the thing. So anyway.
Thanks, ladies, for sharing. And just on behalf of A Time to Heal and everyone, I just really appreciate Becky, Taylor, and Emalee, all of your guys' experiences, your stories, your vulnerability, and especially thank you to those that joined today, that joined last month, that were willing to come off mute, come off camera, or come on camera and kind of share your experiences. It's what has made these discussions possible. So we really appreciate it. I know that Becky, Taylor, and Emalee all have been very generous with just their willingness to connect offline. I know that they shared these emails last time, and they're more than willing to connect with you guys as well. So if there are topics or questions or things that we didn't touch on or things that you want to see in future events, I just welcome you to reach out to us, reach out to the true heroes here, Becky, Taylor, and Emalee, because they have all experienced so much to kind of bring this conversation here today. So anything else that anyone wants to just jump on before we sign off? I know we're a few minutes over our time limit, but I just want to give the opportunity to anybody if they're wanting.
I would like baby updates in December, Jamie. Yeah. a baby update to Time to Heal would be awesome.
Yes, yes.
I just wanted to say oh, go ahead. So sorry, Jenna, you go ahead.
Okay, sorry. So this is obvious. This is my first time doing this. So I don't really know a ton about it, but is this like a weekly thing that you guys do?
So actually we do monthly educational webinars once a month, and this is just our part 2 of like this specific series. So like in regards to like young adult topics, this is just kind of the second of 2. We do educational series on different topics each month. So like next month, we're going to do one on appearance related side effects. But if you're looking specifically for this crew, we haven't really developed anything. I'm sure that those on the call would be willing to kind of see if there's any meet and greets or whatnot to do moving forward. But A Time to Heal hosts monthly ones, but they're on different topics.
Okay.
And if you guys, I'm sure I speak for Becky and Emalee too, that if anyone's interested in having like a monthly little Zoom chat or something, like we would be so open to that. We would, we'd love it's part of the silver lining of this whole thing for us to be able to connect with other survivors. So don't be shy.
I was going to say, I just really appreciate like meeting some folks here in the young adult world in Omaha, because I know I have some groups outside that are nationwide, but I don't really know a lot of other survivors that are local. So just knowing that there's folks here in town who get it, it means a lot. So thank y'all for
and I think some of you might know we don't all live in the same town, but I am coming back to Omaha next week. So I'm going to be in town for a little bit. So all of us could probably get together if you're in the local. It's hard to schedule things, but we would do our best. Right. So if that is something that y'all are interested in, we're happy to connect in person. If you want the 3 of us in a room, we're pretty funny. We tell a lot of jokes.
We think we are.
Yeah.
Ellie, do you have emails? Do you have to provide? Okay. We'll send an email. We'll maybe like put out a date for coffee. And even if it's just the 3 of us that show up, there's no pressure because we have to get together anyways, but we'd love to meet you.
We get together anyways.
That's true. We get together anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. You, ladies.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I'll follow up this week with some resources and we can kind of get some connection going on down the road. Thanks everybody.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.